Pam,
Hey, Brooke.
all right. I am so excited because we're going to talk about a financial thermostat today. You game?
Thermostats? I'm game. Middle of winter, I'm all about thermostats.
These are not the Nest kind, but it's your financial thermostat. And one of the things that I think we both see as we're working with these entrepreneurs is as the income of their company goes up, they kind of start to hit kind of some internal economic barriers. Is that a fair assessment?
It, when last year's revenue is this year's payroll, they have a hard time wrapping their head around it.
Yeah, that's usually one of those puke-inducing kind of. I did have a client that told me what was he saying? Oh, my payroll this month is as much as my revenue was 2 years ago
For the whole year.
for the whole year. Like that was just a scary kind of moment.
Right.
And and naturally our instinct is to kind of pull back from that, right? Too much, too fast, too big. I'm not ready. I'm not prepared, right?
Right. And isn't that the imposter syndrome kind of stuff?
Yeah, so it's imposter syndrome. Gay Hendricks, so I came with props again today. Gay Hendricks talks about the upper limit problem. Like you hit an upper limit and you just can't seem to break through whatever that ceiling is. And Harv Eker, T. Harv Eker is the guy who called it a financial thermostat. And he said, like a thermostat in a house, you are financially set to a particular level. If you make more than that, then instinctually you're going to pull back and make a little less the next year. So, for instance, a salesperson who has like that banner year, they usually make 100,000. They made 150. That next year, they're probably going to make closer to 75. They're going to kind of drop it and try to even it out, like a thermostat does.
Mm-hmm.
And people's financial
It's
thermostats.
kind of like the lottery winners, right? That once they win the lottery, then you find out within a few years they're at or below their economic status they were before they won the lottery because they can't handle it. So they just it's
They
like
can't
water
handle it.
through the
Yeah. And I think that financial thermostats are set in a couple of different places. So some people set their financial thermostat on the revenue for their company or the amount that they bring in to their household. And I think some people set their financial thermostat um, to what they have at the end of the month. So I know that we have seen clients that have gone from taking home 60,000 a year to taking home, I'm thinking about one in particular who takes home almost $600,000 a year. And only in the past 6 or 9 months has his financial stability at home improved any, even though his revenue's been going up, right? I think his
Mhm.
financial thermostat at the end of the month was kind of set to zero.
And that's interesting because I've always heard that your needs expand to the amount of your income.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And everybody thinks, oh, I'm getting a raise. I'll be able to put money in the bank or I'll put it in my 401k or whatever. And it never happens.
Right. And I think you hear in society people talking about, it's hard to be middle class, and statistically, we're not going to reach the financial achievements of our parents. But I think the financial achievements of your parents are key because I think your financial thermostat was set by your parents when you were a child.
And that's interesting because I've seen it get set too low, but I've also seen it get set too high. I mean, we've all known, you sit there in the pews at the wedding and you're like, I don't know if you can afford her.
Does he really understand how expensive she is?
What it takes to live the lifestyle that you're accustomed to. And I think I think setting a thermostat too low and setting it too high are both a disservice.
I think they are. But the fact of the matter is we all have a thermostat. It was all set at some point, probably in our childhood, and we didn't have anything.
Dinner table.
Yeah, around the dinner table. So it always makes me think of that story of the newlywed couple and the roast. Have I told you this one?
Okay.
Yeah, I've told you this one. I'm going to tell it again. So newlywed couple, it's Sunday. She's going to make roast. She gets the roast. She cuts off both ends. She puts it in the pan. And she puts it in the oven. And her husband's going, "What did you do?" "Well, I cut off the ends of the roast." "Why?" "Because that's how you make a roast." He's like, "That's not how my mom made a roast." She's like, "Well, that's how my mom made a roast. Now I know how to do this."
Newlyweds. Yeah.
"That's how my mom taught me how to do it." "Okay, so let's call your mom." So this brand new son-in-law calls his mother-in-law and says, "Why did you teach my wife to cut the ends off the roast?" And she said, "Well, that's the way my mother taught me how to do it." All right. Well, the grandmother still alive and kicking. So he's like, "I'm getting to the bottom of this," calls the grandmother and says, "Why do you cut the ends off the roast?" And she said, "Because the roast is always too big to fit in my pan." Right? So you've got generations of people doing something that they learned, but they don't know why. And I think your financial thermostat is like that. You
Absolutely. Yeah. Save for a rainy day. That's don't take on debt. Those are all messages, or take on debt and don't consider the
yeah.
risk of it.
Or there's never enough money.
Right.
Or there's never anything left over at the end of the month. Those kinds of things set your financial thermostat.
Mhm.
And something that has frustrated me, and it's frustrated me about a lot of stuff, is when you say, "Okay, I want to change my financial thermostat," right?
Can
I'm
I
going to
lose
reset it.
10 pounds too?
What?
While we're resetting the thermostat, can I lose 10 pounds?
Oh God, yes.
I want that.
Let's reset the weight thermostat. Okay. So, um, but what people tell you, and you'll go to coaches and they'll say, "You just make a decision." My response to that is usually like BS. How do you just make a decision? Like, you can't just make a decision. It's not that easy, right? At least I don't think it
Put
is.
Post-it notes up everywhere that says, "You are wealthy, you are this," it's all that.
Mhm. And they do. They talk about mantras and all of that. And you make a decision. And I think the hardest part of that is like, really, I just make a decision to think like a wealthy person. I've never been wealthy. My family was never wealthy. I don't have any truly wealthy friends. And yet somehow I'm supposed to make a decision to act and think like a wealthy person that I've never encountered.
Right. And you have stereotypes of what that person is or is not.
Right. I think it's totally unrealistic. So you found something recently that I'd love.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it is this incredible woman named Ruby Payne. And she's done a lot of research over the years into poverty and generational poverty and being poor, and that there's a difference between generational poverty and being poor.
And situational poverty.
And situational, yeah. Situational poverty is, the pandemic, we lost our job. Generational poverty, I think she defines as 3 generations, two, 3. Yeah. And what I like about her work is that she lays out the difference between generational poverty mindset, like how they think about things, how the middle class thinks about things, and how wealthy people think about things.
Right.
So,
And it's not just how they think about money, right?
no, it's everything. So let's look at one. We've got a couple of different options of things to look at. And I want to look at this one first because this one's my favorite.
You know me, I like a good grid.
Yes. So here is what I think is great. It's a grid, right? 3 columns, 3 different things. And this one, this grid talks about more how you perceive the world, how you make decisions. So, in generational poverty, the driving force for decision making is survival, relationships, and entertainment. But when we look at the middle class, it's all about work and achievement. And those are totally different things, right?
Yeah.
And then wealth is all about social standing, financial, and political connections.
Mm-hmm.
Radically different
Mm-hmm.
from survival, relationships, and entertainment.
Yeah, and this, in the back of my mind, I'm beginning to think about, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? First, you have to take care of these things, and then you can take care of these things, and then, you can pontificate and self-actualize at the top, which is kind of what I hear in the wealth component.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I really like the one about possessions.
mm-hmm.
Generational poverty, people or possessions. And she puts what?
That's fascinating.
I think it's fascinating too. And she puts this note that, and maybe it must have been somewhere else, not here. Oh, yeah, it is here. It's worse to steal someone's girlfriend than a thing from them. If in the middle class, things are possessions. So not people, it's things. And then in wealth, it's legacy, one of a kind objects, and your pedigree. Those are the things that are possessions. I think it's just fascinating. I really do. I love her work.
Right. And if I think about the truly wealthy people that I'm are in my life, I see a big difference between old money and new money. Wealthy seems to be old money, and the new money seems to have a lot of the things are possessions kind of mentality. And you've always heard people look down at new money, because they haven't made that mindset change.
They haven't made that leap. Right. They're just middle class with a lot of money.
Well, but it does take, I think worthiness is a big part of this mindset shift that, it might take a generation or two to actually impact this change, right? I think about all the entrepreneurs, right? And who was it? Kiyosaki, who wrote the book Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah.
Yes. And in there, I think it was he who spoke about adult economic outpatient care, right?
Okay, I missed this one.
Oh, this is one of my favorite things. So, somebody makes the money, right?
Yep.
And they set the financial thermostat for their kids, right? They grew up poor, right? But then they don't want their kids to have the struggles that they've had. So they give, right?
Mhm.
And then the children grow up and go out on their own, but the parents continue to provide economic support, adult economic outpatient care, right? So they buy gifts, they buy trips, they, help with the down payment, kind of, yes, in the vein of, wealth is for spending. And then, of course, that does not lead to the retention of wealth, because one of the lessons of wealthy people is don't touch the principal.
Oh, yeah, you never touch the principal.
And I was just on a call with a client who has some extra money and wanted to pay down the mortgage. And I'm like,
why are we paying down the mortgage? Refinance it. You can get a mortgage at 2.25%, like I just did.
right, but it's up here. And we talked about it, and they said, I know it doesn't make financial sense. And I said, so let's understand what it represents. And it was a prideful moment of being debt free, which I think middle class aspires to be debt free. I think that's one of the mantras of what success looks like, right?
Well, and I think that wealthy people understand how to use debt as a tool.
Right. And middle class and lower class people see it as or the opposite of a tool. It's something that drags people down.
Yeah. An anchor?
Yes, there you go. A nice little boat anchor. But you know, a lot of people who come out of, and to the point of his book, you know, I have Rich Dad here and I have Poor Dad over here, you know, and they're both on your shoulders. And one's telling you this about money and the other's telling you this about money. Maybe it was The Millionaire Next Door. That's the book that talked about adult economic outpatient care.
Oh, The Millionaire Next Door.
Also a very good read, right? But you know, we have the other grid, and this is one of my favorite ones, right? Is
Want me to show this one?
Yeah, is the family structure, right? So this one goes through possessions, money, personality, social emphasis, food, clothing, time, so on and so forth. But towards the bottom third, there's family structure. In poverty, it's matriarchal. In the middle class, it's patriarchal. And in the upper class, it's whoever has the money.
Which is true.
It is true, right? I mean, you know,
yeah.
And you know, I just found that to be insightful. But I agree with you. You know, if you sat at a dinner table, and I was having this conversation with another client today, what you learn shapes who you become.
Absolutely.
And that's hard to shake, right? It's like inside, and it usually manifests, in my opinion, with clients is fear, right?
Absolutely.
What do you fear the most? And it has to do with how you, or fear or worthiness, right? And I had a great conversation last week with a client, and I said, look at it this way, right? Because I think part of the message of the middle class mentality is fairness, right? Doing well enough, but you know, not being greedy, not being gluttonous, those kind of things. And I said, but look at it this way. What will you do with that money? Will you be a good steward of that money? Will you pay it forward? Will you invest it? Will the world be a better place because that money is in your hands versus somebody else's?
And what was the answer?
Well, that led us to this. You know, and this was a person who was the first one in his family in a really long time to go to college, or the first one in his family period to go to college, right? So he made that shift from poverty to middle class, and he is anchored in middle class. And so he said, as he was making that change, there was a woman in his life, maternal, go figure, who, you know, he had to wear a suit to something, and he didn't know how to tie a tie. And she taught him how to tie a tie. Well, just like you have to learn how to tie a tie, there are things that you have to learn to make that next leap. And you have to have, in my opinion, to your point of just deciding, you have to surround yourself with people who can support you through change. Because you and I both know how hard change is.
Yeah. And there are things that I believe to be true. So your business will only grow as much as you grow. So that goes back to that upper limit, right? If you're not growing, you ultimately will be the thing that limits your business from continuing to grow. And I think that, oh my God, I totally lost my train of thought. Where was I going with this? What did you say?
Limit you have thoughts about what keeps you from increasing your upper bounds.
Yeah, and I think that just, make a decision and be a different person is really hard. And this is I think this grid helps you make that shift. You need people to help you, just like that boy needed someone to teach him how to tie a tie.
Mhm.
Looking at this and looking at money and moving from the money is to be managed, which is controlled,
Yeah.
to the money is to be conserved and invested. Like if
Mhm.
you're trying to make that shift, at least you know where you're going. And every time you're like, no, 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 I need to manage the money. You go, no, I'm supposed to conserve and invest. And slowly, if you catch yourself in those thought processes, you're eventually going to actually make the shift. Instead of consciously making the decision about what you're going to do, it will become ingrained.
And to surround yourself by people that can hold you accountable to doing that,
Mhm.
and can help you navigate that.
Yeah, because you're moving into a different world.
Mhm.
And are the people you surround yourself? What's the saying? You're the product of your five closest friends or something.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, so who are your five closest friends? But also who are your five closest advisors?
Right. Your trusted advisors.
Who are those people that are helping you in this process, in this road less traveled? Is it people who have seen it, who have experienced it, and who know, and who are encouraging you to grow in a great way? Or is it someone who is stuck, maybe with a poverty mindset? They're not going to help you grow beyond that.
Right. And who helps you not feel guilty about what you do, right?
I don't know. Everybody needs a couple of lashes with a wet noodle every now and then.
True that, but
Yeah, it's
I think it also helps us understand the other people in our lives, right? Because as we employ many different people at many different price points, it, you know, if you are coming at a conversation, let's say about salary, or benefits or something like that, you need to appreciate the mindset at which they come at that conversation.
well, yeah, let's take destiny. If you are, let's say you're in the wealth category, right? Noblesse oblige. So, you're here to help other people and you're hiring someone to do some kind of manual labor and you start trying to help them. They may see it as you're taking pity on them and you're trying to
Mhm.
offer a handout. If you're middle class and you start saying you could be anything you want to be and you can, climb the ladder of success and you can make a lot of money, they're going to look at you like you're batshit crazy, right?
Mhm.
So that's one of the things that we talk about as a company a lot, meeting our clients where they are.
Mhm.
I think it's good to remember that within your own company. Are you meeting your employees where they are? Are you having discussions with them that match their money mindset? Are you having the right conversations with them?
Right.
Because
And if you don't have that mindset, can they help you reach your goals?
yeah, absolutely.
So getting back to
But wait,
resetting.
but that being said, that does not mean that your receptionist needs to be exhibiting noblesse oblige. You just need to make sure that when you're having a conversation with her about promotion and money and stuff like that, that you're talking in her terms, not yours.
Mhm.
But the people you rely on for advice, the people you talk to, the people you look to help you solve problems, Pam, you're right. Those are the people that need to be either firmly in the category where you are or in the category who you want to be. You need to make sure that you're not dealing with someone who is at a lower socioeconomic level.
Mm-hmm. But you know, it can all be lonely, right?
Oh my God, so lonely. So lonely. And you know this. So you've had, I think part of, we joke that you're the unicorn, right? And part of what makes you the unicorn is that you started at a company as the CFO and you left as the CEO. You left as the president of that company. You left as the one standing at the top, running everything. And so you get that you can't always rely on your employees. You can't always, like, you're experiencing something totally different in that company than everybody else is.
Have I told you about my new book I'm writing? Because you know we like
Oh,
books, right?
geez. Wait, this one you're writing? You're only writing like 5 right now.
Right. They're all going to be bestsellers, right?
Oh, good.
Yeah, the bestsellers that were never written. Um,
What's this one?
Hold on a minute. I'm trying to find it here.
You're writing a
Okay.
book and you've forgotten the title?
No, walk in my shoes for a day. Perspectives from a business owner to his leadership team, his wife, his kids, and hourly employees. Now, that's in contrast to retirement. It's overrated. Or the best thing about